Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. Right-wingers can no longer hide behind states' rights when it comes to creating radical immigration laws. A ruling from the highest court of the land proves states can only go so far. The Supreme Court ruled 5-3 in favor of striking down most of the provisions in Arizona's controversial immigration law, Senate Bill 1070. The ruling says states cannot override federal laws on immigration. Here's what was struck down. Arizona cannot make it a misdemeanor for not carrying identification saying whether or not you are a legal citizen. Arizona can't make it a crime for undocumented immigrants to apply for a job. Many think that's a civil rights issue. Law enforcement cannot arrest someone based on suspecting the person is in the country illegally. But the ruling also keeps intact the most controversial part of the law, the papers, please provision, allowing law enforcement to check the immigration status of people they detain. President Obama said in a statement he was pleased with the overall ruling, but also concerned the controversial provision is still alive. Going forward, we must ensure the Arizona law enforcement officials do not enforce this law in a manner that undermines the civil rights of Americans, as the court's decision recognizes. The Supreme Court, what could happen here is that they could wind up taking up this provision again down the road. But right now, it's up to the state courts to determine whether the practice is unconstitutional. Republican Governor Jan Brewer jumped into space-saving mode late this afternoon. The law she championed basically got smoked by the Supreme Court. She put on a happy face today.
The heart of Senate Bill 1070 has been proven to be constitutional. Arizona's and every other state's inherent authority to protect and defend its people has been upheld.
Brewer was inflexible in questions with reporters. She was asked about the majority of provisions of the Supreme Court being struck down, but Brewer didn't stray from her script.
Today, the state of Arizona and Senate Bill 1070 was vindicated, and the heart of the bill was upheld. I believe that we have accomplished a lot and that it was upheld by the United States Supreme Court, and that we will move forward. And now it has been validated unanimously by the United States Supreme Court.
You know what this country needs? A real dose of honesty. Why can't the Republicans and the Democrats just come together on this issue and start from this vantage point? We both have failed. Your party and our party, we just haven't been able to get it done. Can we start over now? I mean, Jan Brewer is the Baghdad Bob of right-wing immigration laws. I mean, she says the court upheld the heart of Senate Bill 1070, but it only upheld the right for the law enforcement to ask for documentation. Brewer is proud of one key achievement, the ability to racially profile suspected undocumented immigrants. Republican officials like Brewer and Sheriff Joe Arpaio, you have to ask yourself the question, are they really interested in real immigration reform? I mean, if they were, they would be out praising the number of undocumented immigrant deportations just last year under President Obama. 396,906. They should be pleased with the doubling of Border Patrol agents and technology since 2004, something, again, President Obama is responsible for. And the president is enacting immigration reform even without the help of Republicans in Congress. His enforcement action regarding children of undocumented immigrants is another major reform. The president has offered solutions and policy changes while the Congress has done nothing. The only thing the GOP has offered really is racial profiling on a state level. Mitt Romney told a crowd of top donors today, I would have preferred to see the Supreme Court give more latitude to the states, not less. This is the closest he came to offering an opinion about the Supreme Court ruling. Romney's wishy-washy stance on immigration has led to scenes like this. Protesters gathering outside Romney's fundraising luncheon in Scottsdale, Arizona today. The Supreme Court ruling today shows the importance of immigration reform, no doubt about it. Arizona was smacked down for trying to have its own immigration policy and creating new crimes to do what? Target immigrants. Racial profiling. That's what it ended up doing. This is an issue to be decided on the federal level. It's interesting how a right-wing court said, no state rights here, guys. It's got to be the federal law. The one presidential candidate that has a comprehensive position on immigration is the guy that already has the Oval Office. The other guy's out to lunch with billionaires. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question: will Republicans pay the price at the polls for their position on immigration? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. You can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com. We'll bring the results later on in the show. Can we start from this vantage point? That both parties have failed on this issue, but it's an awfully big lift, and this president has really done something, whether you like it or not. Most Latinos do. Joining me tonight is Congressman Raul Grijalva of Arizona, who is also the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. Congressman, great to have you with us tonight. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate you having me here.
You know, this is such an important issue for our country, because if we don't get this right, where do we move from here? What's the next generation do? But I want to start with this Arizona law in this ruling by the Supreme Court. It still says racial profiling is going to happen, and it doesn't do anything to curb that. Are you troubled by that?
No, I think that's a poison aspect of the decision. It leaves open the possibilities for persons like Joe Arpaio in my state, who sees that as no consequence, and civil liberties and civil rights as no consequence. So that's why he is in court to abuse that police authority that local officials have. We have great people in our state, sheriffs, police chiefs across our state, who are saying that this law was wrong from the beginning and that it was a liability for local communities.
What do you make of Jan Brewer's response?
Well, this law was delusional when it began, and unfortunately, our governor continues to be delusional. The fact that the core about whose right it is to set immigration law was decided today, and it is a federal congressional responsibility, and she still continues to believe that because a section, which is onerous, which is poisonous, continues to be alive in this legislation 1070, that there is a victory. There's not a victory. It is a bad precedent for the country. It is a bad precedent for public policy, due process, 14th Amendment, and it's going to be challenged legally. It's going to be challenged politically, and that's the way it should be, because I really believe that portion of it was as constitutional as the rest of it.
Well, this was the hot button issue. I mean, this was really, this was and so in some respects, those who do have a chip on their shoulder, so to speak, would say, good, we can move forward from here. I mean, don't you see it that way?
Yeah, and that's what I think is the most disturbing about that portion that the Supreme Court kind of held in abeyance in terms of its constitutionality, is that it allows personalities driven by motives beyond the law, like Arpaio and others, to use that discretion that the court has given him in this interim period to basically take away people's rights and abuse people's privileges.
All right, the Bush administration couldn't do it. The Obama administration ran into a filibuster. I mean, how much responsibility is on the Congress now to get immigration reform moving? I mean, I'm going to play this for you. Jan Brewer is blaming the Democrats for not getting immigration reform passed. Here she is.
We also cannot forget that President Obama and his party had both houses in Congress for 2 years and could have secured our borders and fulfilled the promise to fix our broken immigration system.
Your response, Congressman?
Well, I kind of find it curious. Other than myself and Congressman Pastor, we've been consistently for comprehensive reform. We've been for a bipartisan solution. We've been for the DREAM Act. We've supported that all through these years. And there is not one of our Republicans in Arizona, let's just talk about Arizona, in our delegation, including our senators, that has helped in that bipartisan effort. In fact, they will set up barriers. I find it ironic that the people that harp the most about the states need to do it because the federal government won't, are the same ones that put every impediment in front of us here in Congress to get it done. I think there's a great deal of pressure on Congress. Should be. It's our responsibility. We need to take care of it. And it's time that the Republicans stepped up and acted as adults and quit exploiting this issue and exploiting the poor people that are abused by this issue.
Ironically, Mitt Romney was in Arizona today. He says he wishes the Supreme Court would have upheld the state law. What does that tell you?
It tells me that he continues to be out of touch, not only on the issue of immigration, but how to react to an emerging constituency in this country, a demographic shift in this country, which is the Latino community. And rather than talk about accommodation, integration, and working toward a solution on immigration, he's caught between pandering and not knowing what to do. He's in the same boat he was at the beginning, and all of us in our community realize that he has no solution and he has no ideas about what to do about this.
And Congressman, finally, there's some other states that are involved in this. Georgia, Alabama, Indiana, South Carolina, some other states that have tried to go down this road of passing some immigration laws. What do you think their response is going to be tonight to this Supreme Court ruling? Where do you think they'll go from here?
Well, the brakes have been put on the fact that they can preempt the federal government in terms of immigration law. The brakes have not been put on in terms of that section which empowers local law enforcement. I hope that those states realize that this is about due process in the 14th Amendment. They should wait for all those issues to be clarified before they turn loose an agenda that is only going to further divide and economically hurt every one of those 4 states that have similar laws like Arizona.
Congressman Raul Grijalva, Arizona, good to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much. Remember to answer tonight's question there at the bottom of the screen. Share your thoughts on Twitter at EdShow. We love it when you do that. The other major Supreme Court case today could literally cripple democracy in this country. That's what I believe, and I'll share those thoughts with you. We're going to look at Citizens United Part 2. I mean, that's what it is. Montana Governor Brian Schweitzer and E.J. Dionne join me for the discussion. Stay with us. We're right back.